What's up, everybody? It's another misty, rainy day out today, so we're going to be headed inside for a little bit. Uh, if you're an outdoorsy person like me, that's mainly what this channel is all about. You probably have a pocket knife on you, and I think it is a good habit to keep your knife maintained. That way it doesn't let you down if you're needing it. I'm a little bit of qualified actually on this topic. I spent about 8 years selling case pocket knives at one of the largest case knife realtors in the country. So I will give you a little bit of insight into some of the ways that I would recommend that you keep that knife up and going for you. Alrighty, so I got a bunch of different knives here just to kind of give us all an idea of some of the different steels that most knife brands are going to have, kind of their hardness scales, where they're laying in that, the different type of steel itself, and kind of the main tools I think that everybody should have on hand that will consistently keep their knives sharp. So up here, of course, we have the Rapala fillet knife. If you're like me, you're old school, keep just the Rapala on hand. It's cheap. It's got a higher carbon content, I'm pretty sure, in that steel. They don't officially say what their hardness is. I'm going to guess it's probably in the neighborhood of 55 to 57 on the Rockwell scale, because it is a stainless. It can take a bit of a beating. It's not going to sharpen as fast as some of your carbon steel blades, but it's still got high enough carbon content in it that it doesn't take much to keep that knife sharp. Now, since sharpness is our main goal, I would recommend just one of these little pull-through Smith sharpeners. I would use just the hard carbide side first. Do a few drags if your knife is in real bad disarray and you really need to hone that edge back into center. Use that. Try and do a consistent count. So, if you do like 5 and then you test your edge and it's not went too far as getting that edge kind of centered back and you're starting to feel a little fine edge on it, do another 5 and just work it down to where you're ready to move on to the ceramic rods there in the bottom of it, and then you just flip it over, pull through there. And I would do it to your liking also. Just start at a number like 5, 10, then work down to a finer increment. The good thing about this, like pull through, they're cheap. I'll link this one down below because I got it off Amazon. Everybody else, if you think you just need one to grab, that's perfect. If you're filleting fish, if you're out skinning coons, coyotes, whatever, if you're doing it that way, this is a great tool to have on hand. I would also recommend like a Work Sharp brand. Those are great, but you're going to have to constantly buy new belts for it over time. And this, you're just not going to need to do that. It's going to last for quite a long time, and the cost is minimal. You're not also going to be needing the fine blade edge if you're using these knives as working. Your fillet knife is probably the only knife that you would need a finer edge. This is probably a 25-degree angle between those rods or the carbide cutters there. Most like utility knives, between a 20 to 25-degree angle is what most brands say that they come packaged from the factory at. Your fillet knife, most other kitchen knives are around an 18-degree edge, but typically, like if I've used that to cut up some deer loin or fillet a crappie, the fine edge on those ceramic rods in this little Smith sharpener, it'll put it back where it needs to be for the work that I'm doing. Now, for your folding knives here, not so much your fillet knife. You're going to have 2 types of steel. You're going to have a high carbon steel. This is my everyday knife. You're going to have stainless steel knives also, which will be my 2 middle knives here. this buck in this case. And then this is also the same carbon as this, but I want to show the difference, some differences that you can see. So your stainless steel knives are going to be harder. You're going to have to pull them through that sharpener more than you will these high carbon knives. These high carbon steel knives, you can sharpen in a matter of a few licks and you're ready to roll. That's the great advantage to them. There is somewhat of a disadvantage to some people. To me, it never bothered me, and you can probably see it on this knife best. That's the little bit of pitting and rust. So if you're out using these knives and you get them wet, they're gonna start to form a patina. They're not gonna stay nice and shiny like this one. See, this is also the same carbon steel that Case uses. It's like a 420 HC. If you're a steel guy, it's a high carbon, or it's a high stainless content, high carbon steel. So they're trying to give it a little bit of rust resistance, but ultimately they got to keep that carbon content high enough that they can keep it easy to sharpen. So like I said, this is my daily. I really like this knife. Does not bother me. But with these friction folders like this, you're going to get a lot of pocket lint down in there. You don't know how many times guys have brought knives into the storefront, and I've had to pick lint out because their knife just doesn't fold like it used to. Well, reach down in there, get you a flashlight out on your phone, look in there. I guarantee you that thing is going to be packed with pocket lint. So keep your knives clean and they will definitely help you function. One other thing that is going to help you keep them moving is a good quality oil. Now, 3-in-1 oil used to be marketed as sewing machine oil back in the day, and it's just now multi-purpose oil. I got mine at Walmart. You can probably get it online. I'll link it down below if you want. The great thing about the 3-in-1 oil is it's not going to cause that high carbon steel to tarnish if you put too much on. It's not got any kind of scent or anything to it, so you're not going to be smelling it. I mean, I've heard guys say that they use ATF fluid. I mean, by all means, go for it. I mean, that's in your transmission. It's going to be metal on metal wear, which is what's going to be happening right there at those joints. I mean, it would work great. It's literally what it's made for. But that ATF fluid, if you've got it on your hands, you know it stinks. Now, you know, I know some chefs say, I just put a little bit of vegetable oil on my cooking knives. A lot of guys that are using those very high-end cooking knives, they're going to be using just a little bit of vegetable oil. Don't use vegetable oil. Vegetable oil has sugars in it. It causes bacteria to grow on it, which is awful in your cooking, as well as it will start to make it go rancid. If you're gonna go down that route, you could probably use mineral oil on those cooking knives. Probably not wanting to use that 3-in-1 oil because it's not food grade safe as far as I know. Now, these high carbon steel, or these stainless steel knives like this trapper lock here, they're gonna be a lot harder to sharpen just because they got more chromium in them. In that steel, you're gonna have to pull it through there a lot more times, but ultimately they're going to retain their edge longer. But if you let it get to a state where it needs to be sharpened, it's going to take a lot more time to get that edge back on there. So that's one thing to think about. And another additional thing on like any other knife, it's going to get that crud down here. These liner locks like this bar just holds that blade from coming back, folding up on you, or these friction folders are just going to close on you if you push against that blade. There's still going to be lint up in here. It's going to get on both sides, so you may have to get you like a little paper clip, dig that out of there, and then put you some oil in there. Keep that thing lubed up. And that's the ultimate success to keeping these knives functioning. You know, even these things with the back lock and the back spring. You be packed up. Put you some oil in there. They'll last a lot longer. You know, this knife, these high carbon knives, some guys, they just want to keep that shine on there, and it's pretty hard, honestly. Honestly, keep them away from any moisture. If you're living in a climate where it's awful, if you're like in Washington State, you know, keep a dehumidifier going. I know guys with thousands of knives in their collections, and that's the kind of state that they do. They absolutely keep them knives dry, and then they go through and they put that 3-in-1 oil is usually what I always recommended. They also sell some like knife like lubes and oils. If you have a knife store that you trust, probably whatever they're gonna recommend you, probably gonna do just as well. I've also recommended to guys Ballistol. I know they use that for gun cleaning a lot. Something you need to consider on that. Something like this, yellow synthetic. I mean, it's just a high grade plastic. It's pretty durable. It's going to be very similar to like a machiner's plastic like Delrin. You can get that oil all over it, and it's not going to cause any issue. This knife is made out of cattle bone, and it's been dyed to that amber color. If you get a lot of oil on it, that bone is still porous. It took the dye. It's going to take that oil too. So if you're not wanting any kind of discoloration in your knife handle on those natural materials like that, don't be using a lot of oil, getting it everywhere. Just put a little bit, like a drop at a time in there, work it in, then get you a cloth. I know a lot of guys use microfiber. I can't stand microfiber. Just find you some kind of softer cloth to soak it up with. I know a couple different stores that sell polishing cloths. Those work great. Just something like that. I really wouldn't recommend cotton just because it leaves little fuzzies all over the place, and they're kind of a pain to get off. So, that being said, that's some general knife care and maintenance. All these knives right here, I use the 3-in-1. All these knives, I use that Smith sharpener, and that's pretty much what I keep all these in line with. One other thing I might mention, guys who don't want the rust, is there anything you can do to protect it other than the oil if you're out and you're beating them around? You can. You can force a patina on the knives. You can look that up on YouTube. There's a lot of videos doing it. I did it to this knife when I first got it, and there's multiple ways to do it. It's going to put more of like a matte finish on it, and maybe even black to an extent. Like a lot of guys use vinegar. I used apple cider vinegar in a very small glass. Just opened up the blades and stuck it in there, and then let it sit overnight. I've seen other guys use mustard. You can stick them in a potato. Believe it or not, banana, same thing. They just hold a lot of moisture inside of them, and it gets on those blades, and you'll have a black coating on them the next day. Whenever you go to wipe it off, there might be a little black oxide come off on like paper towel or whatever you have that's holding that moisture on there. Now, it won't rust where you're actually seeing rust, but it will have a black oxide on it. Like I said, it'll turn it more of a kind of a dark matte gray, but it'll keep that knife with a light oxidization layer on it, and it won't be, you know, really pitting really bad from that higher content of carbon. If you use the vinegar method, which I did, these bolsters on the case knives are nickel silver, and those nickel silver bolsters will tarnish because of the acid in it. It'll start to spot up. I've polished mine out just by using some just like elbow grease on a cloth. You may also get some like fine metal polish. It'll probably pop right off there. Probably wouldn't use anything that had copper bolsters. I know a lot of buck knives use copper bolsters. Probably wouldn't get the vinegar too close to those. I really don't know how they would affect it. But other than that, that would be some general maintenance and care that you could take with your knives. Probably as far as this and the oil, that's going to run you under $10. I would be tempted to say I'm pretty sure I bought this for $3, and I'm pretty sure I bought that for $3 to $5. So I would say probably under $10. Like I said, I'll link the oil, the sharpener down below. If you're wanting to look for any of those particular knives, I'll link them down below also, and kind of get you a head start. But I hope today's video was helpful for some of you guys. I hope that you liked it. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave me a comment down below and I'll try and help you out, point you in a direction at least. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up. Let me know about it. Till next week, I'll be seeing you. Bye-bye.